So today's story is about being in love with a memory. So, do you think we are in love with people or our own thoughts? It's an interesting question if you think about it. We think we love people. We love our mom, we love our dad, we love our brothers and sisters, we even love dogs. Some people love girlfriends and boyfriends. But do we actually love the person or do we love our own thoughts? So let's see a story. During the Buddha's time, there was a monk. He used to be married and then he left his wife to become a monk. Then later on, his wife passed away. And so the monk was super sad. He was crying every day. He didn't eat his food. He was very depressed. And when the Buddha found out, he asked him, he said, "Monk, is it true? Are you crying and sad because of your wife who passed away?" And he says, "Yes, sir. I am sad because my wife died." And he says, "You know what? This is not the first time that you cried because of your wife. Even in the past, you did the same thing." And he said, "Oh, can you please tell me the story about the past?" Because the Buddha has the ability to see into the past and see your past. And so the Buddha told this story. He said, once upon a time, there was a king who had a wife, and he was in love with his wife. His wife was very beautiful, but also very vain. Do you know what the word vain means? When you're obsessed with your own beauty, like in Instagram, always want to be so pretty and so cute. She was obsessed with her own looks. So she didn't have a lot of time to do good things like give charity and help people. Every day she was doing her makeup and her hair. She only cared about her looks. One day, his beautiful wife died. And the king was so sad. The king had her coffin put next to him and he was hugging the coffin every day. He was sleeping next to the coffin. He refused to eat. He stopped running the country. He stopped doing the government work. He was so brokenhearted. And the city started getting worse and worse and worse. Lucky for them, there was a person who was the Bodhisattva, which is the future Buddha, was living in the mountains. And with his special powers, he saw the world and he saw that the king was in the bad state, but he wanted to help him. So the Bodhisattva came to the city and met the king. And he said to the king, "King, I hear that you are no longer running the country. You're no longer eating. You're no longer sleeping. What happened?" And he says, "Oh, the wife that I love so much has passed away." And the king says, the Bodhisattva said, "Are you in love with her or her memory?" He says, "Oh, of course, I'm in love with her. But what if I were to tell you that she was reborn already and she was a worm? Would you still love her?" "It's impossible. My wife was beautiful. Why would she be a worm?" He says, "I can prove it to you." He's like, "How?" "I have the power to make animals talk." And so he said, "You see over there where there's, you know what dung is? It's a nice way of saying poo. Some insects, they roll up the poo, like the dung beetles, and they have a little poo ball, right? So these animals were like, the insects were rolling up the poo ball, the dung ball. And he says, you see that dung ball over there? Stop it. Behind it, you're going to see two worms. Bring them over here." And so they brought the whole pile of dung over to the king. And the king's like, "Ew, that's stinky." He said, "Be patient. You see those two worms? One of them is your wife after being reborn." He's like, "That's impossible. That's impossible." And the guy says, "I'll show you." And he snapped his fingers and then used his powers. And suddenly the worm could speak human language. And then he asked the worm, "Worm, do you remember what you were last life?" She says, "Yes. In a last life, I remember being a queen. And I was married to some guy." And then he asked the worm, "And who is this worm?" "Oh, this is my worm husband." "Oh, who do you love more?" She's like, "That's a silly question. Of course I love," who? "My worm husband. I'm a worm. He's a worm. My husband. Why would a worm love a human? Ew, that's weird." And when the king heard that, he was like, but you were my wife. I loved you. And now that you're a worm, You love another worm? And the king was like, oh my God, I understand now. This whole time, I wasn't in love with a person. I was in love of my own thoughts of that person. Now that that person is gone and not here anymore, the love can stay within me and it doesn't have to be affected to them. Just because they're gone, it doesn't mean that I've lost anything. Does that make sense? If you're in love with your own thoughts, don't you have control of your own thoughts? This is very important. A lot of times in our lives, we think that other people make us mad. We think that we love other people. But in reality, we're only in love with our own thoughts. We're only angry because of our own thoughts. So then what do? Do we try to change them? Do we try to force other people to change? Or what is easier? To change your own thoughts. Which one's easier?
Change your own thoughts.
So the next time you feel anger or sadness or even extreme love and loss, remember, ask yourself, is this my own thoughts or is it because of the other person? And maybe remember this story. Okay? Satu?